Hi, I'm Diane Dressback, and I have Melissa Farley with me today, and we are interviewing Angela Johnson. Angela is a chapter writer in the compilation book, From Us for You, Inspiring Stories of Healing, Growth, and Transformation. So thanks for being with us today, Angela. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So I have not known you before this book. So, some of the authors, some of the writers I've known for a while, and other ones are new. So uh, you were referred to me by Melissa, which just happens to be here. So, so that worked out really well. So why don't you give us a little introduction to yourself?
Oh, okay. Well, my name is Angela Johnson. I'm a fashion designer or an apparel entrepreneur, as I like to call people who own their own clothing brands. And I also am the founder of a fashion incubator in Arizona called Fabric, which stands for the Fashion and Business Resource Innovation Center. Basically, my story is about how that happened, how I ended up going from fashion designer to the person who is helping other fashion designers create their dreams.
So that's so awesome, Angela. And everyone who hears your story and the story of Fabric and how it got started is just awestruck by it. So I'm curious, when you were writing your chapter, what was it that you were hoping people would walk away from thinking or feeling or wanting to do based off of what you had to say?
Well, it was really about trying to encourage other people to not give up on their dream and to maybe kind of think a little bit differently about it. Because I think what happens along the way is, when we're kids, we're dreamers and we think about the things that we want to do with our lives, and we have these lofty, fun plans. And, I want to be an astronaut or whatever it is. And then reality sets in. And when you're in school and out of school and you're trying to figure out what to do with your career, and you have to get a job just to pay the bills and things like that, sometimes it can distract you from your original passion and your original dream. And for some people, their dream never comes true because of that. And maybe it might even be inner voices, or it might even be outer voices from your parents, or from society, or from teachers, or from anything telling you, oh, you should do this, or you shouldn't, do this, or that's just a dreamer, talking, or things like that. And I think sometimes we get steered away from our passions and our dreams because of that. And it's discouraging. And then in my personal story, that's what happened to me. And it was a little bit discouraging. And there were roadblocks, just like everybody has roadblocks along the way, and things that could have steered me in a completely different direction. And, I chose to think a little bit differently one day. I just started to look at the glass as half full. And I know it's like so cliche to say that, but that's when everything changed for me. And just by having a different attitude and believing that things can happen the way that you want them to happen completely changed my life. And I just thought, I want to share that with other people. I want other people to realize that and to think that way and to follow their dreams, and to know if you want something to happen, it's just a matter of thinking it into being. And it happened for me. And I just thought, I want to share that with other people in case it inspires or helps somebody else.
Let's dive into that a little bit more, because one of the things that I thought might have happened to you, and you kind of touched on this, is that probably when you were talking about the idea you had to make Fabric happen, people were probably like, are you crazy? Like, what are you doing? And so I'm curious, you said one day you just started thinking differently, and that it changed the whole way you approached that process. What happened? What was that one day about? What point had you reached in your life, or where were you at in the process that you decided to have this shift happen?
Well, I was pursuing my dream as a fashion designer in Los Angeles, and it was really happening, and I was successful at it. And I moved back here to Arizona, where I'm from, for family reasons. And I had to close down my brand because of the lack of resources here in Arizona. And, if you're not in the fashion industry, in the location where everything is being made, then it's almost impossible to actually get something made. You have to be there, you have to be a part of it, you have to know what to do, you have to be a production manager pretty much. And so when I came back here to Arizona and there were no resources, my dream fizzled a little bit. And I started, to figure out what can I do in Arizona to still be part of the fashion industry. And maybe I'm not manufacturing clothing anymore. Maybe I'm doing something else. And I started teaching and I started consulting and helping other people understand what you have to do to actually make a product. And teaching them how to be their own production manager and stuff like that. And so I went from living my dream to helping other people live their dream, which was rewarding, but it was also not really paying the bills. I mean, I was now living on a teacher's salary, and that's not the same thing. And I was kind of part-timing a lot of different things to make ends meet. So being a consultant, being a teacher, and then I was getting my creative outlet by still making clothing, but making it more in my house as a one-of-a-kind art piece instead of manufacturing in Los Angeles. So between all the different things I was doing, I was getting burnt out and I wasn't paying the bills. And it was frustrating. And I started to, and I also had people saying, why are you trying to help other people? Why don't you just do your thing? You want to be a fashion designer, focus on you, you'll make more money if you focus on you and you start, making your own brand viable again. And I was like, well, yeah, but it's just, I don't have the resources here. And I guess I could focus on my own brand. And so go off on a tangent, focus on my brand for a while, started growing my brand, and that was great and everything, but it still wasn't like really fulfilling this passion that I now had about helping other people, which was really rewarding. And I was trying to figure out, how do I make a living doing that? I love doing that. It's really, fun and fulfilling, but I don't know how to do that as, my full-time job. And I was just getting discouraged and started to find myself thinking differently, thinking a little bit more negatively, and kind of returning to old habits from when I was younger about being negative and the glass half empty kind of situation. And then I just spoke with this woman who just brought out a different way of thinking in me. She just said, you could just think about it differently. You could just be grateful for what you have and what your gifts are, and you could really turn that around. And she's like, I believe in the power of positivity, and I guarantee you, she's like, I promise you, she's like, you can come back and hold me to this. I promise you that if you think about it differently, that you'll find the answers and that your life will change. And I was like, I don't really have anything to lose here. I mean, I thought, well, I don't know, that sounds kind of fluffy, I like, it's very mystical, and I'm kind of a factual person. I guess I have a little bit of that in me, but not enough to really rely on it. And I was like, I don't know. And then I just got to the point where, things were kind of building up, and I was like frustrated, and I thought, what do I have to lose? I mean, I'm just going to start doing what she said. And so I did, and my world changed after that.
I love that. I love that so much. And I just want to say, I'm so glad that I got a chance to interview you, because the reason I referred you is my chapter is all about how I left my corporate job miserable and started pursuing my dream. And when that started, you probably don't even remember this event, but you spoke at an event when I was still working before I made the jump. And you were the seed that got planted that inspired me to pursue my passion. And I am so thankful for you and that you shared your story. And so I guess my question and this is what I love. I love this book because there's now so many women that are sharing their stories that could possibly plant all these different seeds, right? And so I'm curious, at what point did you realize that you had a story to share and that you started going out and kind of spreading this positivity and your experience? When did you realize that this was going to be valuable for other people to know what you had gone through?
Gosh, that's a good question. So, I didn't really put everything together in such a concrete way until you guys reached out about this book. I mean, I guess I've been helping people all along. That's been my passion, and that's been the purpose of Fabric, and doing that because that's enjoyable to me and that's rewarding to me in its own. And I like to see people succeed, but I didn't really go light switch, that I'm planting seeds or anything like that. It's not until I really sat and thought about it that really became a fact and a reality, for me, that maybe that is happening, which makes it so much cooler to know that somebody like you where it was inspired at all, and it led you in a certain direction. And I hope that is happening for more people, and all the fashion designers that I work with every day. If it's helping anybody, pursue their dreams, then goal achieved, and I
Yeah,
could die happy.
I'm sure it is more than you could possibly know. You just kind of live that kind of life, and have that kind of gift to share. And so, speaking of gifts to share, we ask this of all of our authors. It's one of my favorite questions, but a lot of times it's everybody's least favorite question to answer. So what I like to ask is, I think failure is such a valuable teaching tool. I think we learn so many lessons from our failures and from hearing from other people's failures. And so what I'm hoping is that you might be able to share something that you experienced in your life as a failure, but maybe it taught you something really important, or how to do something differently, or any kind of nuggets you can share from an experience of failure that you've had.
Yeah, actually, the whole story in the chapter is really about that. I mean, it's just that life change that I had to make, and because I mean, it kind of was a failure. If I had to close my business down, when I was living my dream, and I was doing what I love, and then moving here to Arizona. I mean, I moved here to take care of my grandfather when my grandmother passed away. So I cannot say that that's a failure in my life, because I wouldn't have changed anything for that. My grandparents raised me, and I just really felt a sense of duty that, and love and commitment to my grandfather to be able to come and help him. But, that was a decision that led to closing my own brand. And so at that point, I felt like a failure. I felt like I just blew my own dream up just to come back here. And it was really frustrating and discouraging, and to have to figure out what else to do, but then to find a passion in something completely different. And that is the thing that I do today is just helping other people. I found that I actually like it better than being, the entrepreneur owning my own fashion brand. I mean, I had been there, done that, but then having to change and figure out something else, and helping other people live their dreams, and guiding and teaching, and sharing any of the micro failures along the way of, this is what happens when you start a brand. And if you don't check your fabric, it gets delivered incorrectly. They cut it and they sew it and it's the wrong fabric. You pay for it. I've been there. Those are the kind of little failures that actually happen along the way, that I've been able to share with every single client and every single person that comes through fabric, so that they understand how to avoid those failures. So at the same time of having this face flop and having to actually redo it and come up with a better plan that I actually enjoy even more, been able to share micro failures along the way that are particular to our industry and to the people that I'm trying to help.
That's so wonderful. Yeah. And I'm sure they're very grateful to you for doing that, so they can learn from your hard learned lessons. So speaking of kind of, not knowing what's actually going to come around the corner next, and, learning to love something that you didn't know you were even going to love. A lot of people have found it hard to sort of plan for the future given the current state of the pandemic. But I'm curious, when you think about the future, where do you see yourself in 5 years? What are you doing? What are you working on? What are you passionate about?
Wow. So the pandemic kind of it did a lot for what we were doing here. And, we over the pandemic had to kind of pivot again and figure things out, because like everybody did, right? And so a lot of what we were doing before is now digital, and it allowed me the time to really invest my everything that I've been teaching people individually, all the intellectual property that is up in my brain that, I've been individually sharing with one entrepreneur at a time. So over, 20 years of consulting, it's been thousands of people, and I'm individually meeting with and sharing this information and teaching in classes and stuff like that. this pandemic allowed me that opportunity to take all of that and actually download my brain and create virtual Angela. And so what actually lives now as part of this incubator is this online resource that anybody can access nationwide or internationally, really, that is in the form of a roadmap. And so we have created what, are hundreds of steps built into our website, and the hundreds of steps walk somebody through everything they would need to do to design, manufacture, brand, start their business, market. I mean, it's everything an entrepreneur would need from A to Z, and in tiny micro steps. And each one of those has downloadables and attachments and instructions and how-to videos. I've never filmed so many how-to videos in my life, and like just classes and everything. It's virtual me holding these people's hands so I can help hundreds of people simultaneously instead of one-on-one. And it's all connected in a CRM system that actually connects to client folders. And so right there in the system, people can access their own folder within our business where we can see their patterns and their fabrics, and we can work with them digitally. So we can help people way beyond Arizona now, and we can do this all virtually without all the time that it takes, for me to do that. And it's just, happening in the background. And that is like the thing that I thought would take 10 years, and that was way in the future and I couldn't even think about before. But because of the pandemic, it forced me to put it all in this moment of time, and it now is here. So what was my future plan 10 years down the road is now here. And then 5 years from now, I'm hoping that is just growing and growing, and that we create Arizona as the next fashion capital for the modern apparel entrepreneur, so that instead of going to LA or New York, people are coming to Arizona because they are hobby designers that want to become more entrepreneurial and want actual businesses that are handcrafted, smaller batch manufacturing, boutique style brands that aren't overproducing overseas in a very unsustainable way. It's a whole new model for fashion, and that they're coming to Arizona to be able to do that here at the Fabric Building, and utilizing all of our digital resources to be able to do that. So I feel like, 5 years from now, that's definitely achievable. And I think it's an economic development piece for the whole state. It's, bringing a new industry here, and it's helping thousands of people nationwide at the same time. We could literally create a new fashion capital. And that's what I hope will be happening here in 5 years.
That is an ambitious dream, and I'm all about keeping talent in Arizona. So awesome.
I can totally.
And it'll happen. I'm envisioning it. So I think it's going to, I know it's going to happen.
I love it. I love the passion, and it's just like, it's going to happen. And there's no doubt about it at all in what you're believing. And that's awesome. That's you're doing exactly what you said you started doing. So that's wonderful. I have a question for you. What is upcycling?
So when you're taking something that already exists and you're, redoing it and turning it into something else, that's upcycling. So it doesn't have to be in fashion. It can be in almost any product. But in fashion, a lot of upcyclers will take an existing garment, like a t-shirt, for example, and add or take away or do something to it to turn it into a new garment. And that is really what I was doing when I, and I still do, when I first moved back here and I had to close my brand down, my manufactured brand, I wanted to still have a creative outlet, and I started upcycling t-shirts. And so I would go to Goodwill and I would get like 25 t-shirts, and I would turn them into ball gowns as my creative outlet. And that really took off and eventually became its own business as well, and have been doing that for 20 years. Although right now I don't have time to do it. So, with fabric and the incubator, I still do it as sort of a side thing whenever somebody comes to me and wants one, but I'm trying not to market it at the moment because of all these other things. But it's very, very creative way to reuse something so it doesn't go into the landfill and give it a new life.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's interesting. That's I'm trying to picture what that looks like. I'm going to have to find some pictures of your work just to see what that, what those ball gowns look like. So,
They're very fun. They're colorful and they're covered in logos. That's the whole idea, taking all the dichotomy of a t-shirt with a high-end like ball gown is what I love about it. So it's like a very Andy Warhol kind of thing. There's like a lot of pop culture references and funny, humorous, t-shirt logos like I'm with stupid, right on your dress that you're wearing to a ball.
That's wonderful. So I have one last question for you, Angela. And that is, while you were writing the chapter for our compilation book, was there anything that maybe one thing that you learned about yourself?
I guess it really solidified that whole idea that I'm living that reality that my friend had, I guess blessed me with. I mean, I was doing it and didn't stop to really think about it. But when you had me write about it, then I was like, gosh, it's like reflection. I'm looking back on it and really thinking about all the things that have happened since that moment in time. But so much has happened that I'm caught up in it and I'm not really, documenting it enough to appreciate it. But to stop and think about it and go, wow, so much has happened because of changing my way of thinking. And to sit and be appreciative of it and grateful for it in the moment was something that I learned. Like I need to have a lot more gratitude than I even realized I was having, to realize that it's happened because of it, so I guess that's what I learned, is that it's more powerful than I even realized, because so much more has happened as a result of thinking that way.
Well, it's a wonderful way of thinking, and I really appreciate you accepting the challenge to write the chapter and sharing that. I can't wait to share it with everybody, as well as Melissa's chapter and everybody else's chapter. But it's been really fun to talk with you today, Angela, and thank you very much for joining Melissa and I.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for the opportunity to do this. Like I said, I wouldn't have really had forced myself to sit down and reflect. And I think that's really important. And I'm grateful for that, you guys. And I can't wait to read Melissa's. I can't wait to read everybody else's. I think it's so inspiring that you're doing this. And thank you for including me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you. And thank you for watching. If you'd like to share the video, please do so. And if you'd like more information on the book, you can go to FromUsForYou.com and get the details there. So thank you, ladies, and make it a hopeful day.